Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, I've been wanting to do this one for a long time, guys, and this is talking about just a fascinating story. So, it's the unknown life of Jesus Christ, and you see the copyright here, 1894. And it's an interesting thing. It always hit me too. Being somebody that first read the Bible cover to cover on his own at 11, I always wondered, you know, Christ disappeared at about my age when I was reading it. Where did he go? What about all the things that happened between the age of 12 and 30? What about all that time period? Well, he was about doing his father's business. But what does that mean? You know, where are those lost years? So we see over here, and I'll tell you straight out, of course, there are a lot of fundamentalists that will completely reject this. And there again, I've talked about many, many times, probably 100 times or more in videos, as we're getting closer and closer to 2,000 videos out. The fact that, the Orthodox Christian view is one that was formed starting in 325 AD at Council of Nicaea by Constantine the Great, who had that vision that he was to conquer by this sign, the sign of the cross. And as I had said, he was trying to hold his empire together. Christianity was rising, and one of the problems was there was no uniformity. Some believed Christ was a great teacher. Some believed he was God. Some believed he was the Son of God, but not God. Some believed he was divine. Some believed he was human. Some believe he was all these different things. There were so many different thoughts. There were over 200 gospels in circulation, of which we only have 4. There was over 200. There were thousands of texts. And when Constantine came up with his bishops and they came up together with their accepted version of Christianity, all other forms were outlawed, declared heresy, which could be at pain of death as far as punishment. And many did die. There were many heretics, quote unquote, that were boiled in oil, drawn and quartered, burned at the stake, because they didn't believe the official version. And that version was just one version that was circulating amongst so many others. And when you look at it, that version really became one that was enabling him to consolidate his empire and to basically control the minds and hearts of the people. And again, it's all about control and power, as we have seen this on this world. So, the lost years of Jesus, the life of Saint Issa. As we see here, ancient scrolls reveal that Jesus spent 17 years in India and Tibet. From age 13 to age 29, he was both a student and teacher of Buddhist and Hindu holy men. The story of his journey from Jerusalem to Benares was recorded by Brahmin historians. Interesting, right? Brahmin, Abraham. From all the research that I have done, there's such an interconnectivity going on here. And there's so many stories that have common origins. Of course, everybody believes that their story is the original. But if we study all the different stories, look for the commonality, then perhaps we gain a clearer vision of the truth. Today they still know him and love him as Saint Issa, their Buddha. In 1894, Nicholas Notovich published a book called The Unknown Life of Christ. He was a Russian doctor who journeyed extensively throughout Afghanistan, India, and Tibet. Notovich journeyed through the lovely passes of Bolan over the Punjab, down into the arid rocky land of Ladakh, and into the majestic vale of Kashmir of the Himalayas. During one of his journeys, he was visiting Leh, the capital of Ladakh, near the Buddhist convent Himis. And this is when he had an accident that resulted in his leg being broken. So this gave him the unscheduled opportunity to stay a while in the convent. He learned while he was there that there existed records of the life of Jesus Christ. In the course of his visit at the great convent, he located a Tibetan translation of the legend and carefully noted in his Carnet de Voyage over 200 verses from the curious document known as the Life of Saint Issa. He was shown 2 large yellowed volumes containing the biography of Saint Issa. Notovich enlisted a member of his party to translate the Tibetan volumes while he carefully noted each verse in the back pages of his journal. When he returned to the Western world, there was much controversy as to the authenticity of the document. Of course, the powers that be called it a hoax, and so he was ridiculed as an impostor. In his defense, he encouraged a scientific expedition to prove the original Tibetan documents existed. One of his skeptics was Swami Abhindananda, and so he journeyed into the Arctic region of the Himalayas, determined to find a copy of the Himis manuscript or to expose the fraud. His book of travels, entitled Kashmir o Tibeti, tells of a visit to the Himis Ganpa and includes a Bengali translation of the 224 verses, essentially the same as the Notovich text. He was thereby convinced of the authenticity of the Issa legend. And before we go any further, we should, again note the wise men from the East coming. Story of the wise men from the East. Isn't that interesting as well? And we've touched on in past videos as well as the origins of the messianic line of thinking as well, and how it comes out of Persia. It comes out of basically an older line of thinking that influenced the Jewish exiles, some of the Jewish exiles, because not all believed in the messianic line of thinking. When you look at the Pentateuch, there's many that will argue there is absolutely nothing messianic in it at all, and that's the 5 books of Moses. So we see the area that we're talking about here as well. And so in 1925, another Russian named Nicholas Roerich arrived at Himis. Roerich was a philosopher and a distinguished scientist. He apparently saw the same documents as Notovich and Abhindananda, and recorded his own travel diary, the same legend of Saint Issa. There's another one, so that's 3 of them. Speaking of Issa, Roerich quotes legends which have the estimated antiquity of many centuries. He passed his time in several ancient cities of India, such as Benares. All loved him because Issa dwelt in peace with Vaishyas and Shudras, whom he instructed and helped. But the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas told him that Brahma forbade those to approach who were created out of his womb and feet. The Vaishyas were only allowed to listen to the Vedas only on the holidays, and the Shudras were forbidden not only to be present at the reading of the Vedas, but could not even look at them. Issa said that man had filled the temples with his abominations. In order to pay homage to metals and stone, man sacrificed his fellows, in whom dwells the spark of the Supreme Spirit. Man demeans those who labored by the sweat of their brow in order to gain the goodwill of the sluggard who sits at the lavishly set board. But they who deprive their brothers of common blessing shall themselves be stripped of it. Vaishyas and Shudras were struck with astonishment and asked what they could perform. Issa bade them, "Worship not the idols, do not consider yourself first, do not humiliate your neighbor, help the poor, sustain the feeble, do evil to no one, do not covet that which you do not possess and which is possessed by others." Many, learning of such words, decided to kill Issa, but Issa, forewarned, departed from the place by night. Afterward, Issa went into Nepal and into the Himalayan mountains. "Well, perform for us a miracle," demanded the servitors of the temple. Then Issa replied to them, "Miracles made their appearance from the very day when the world was created. He who cannot behold them is deprived of the greatest gift of life. But woe to you, enemies of men, woe unto you if you await that he should attest his power by a miracle." Issa taught that men should not strive to behold the eternal spirit with one's own eyes, but to feel it with the heart, and to become pure and a worthy soul. Not only shall you not make human offerings, but you must not slaughter animals, because all is given for the use of man. Do not steal the goods of others, because that would be usurpation from your near one. Do not cheat, that you may not in turn be cheated. Beware ye who divert men from the true path, and who fill the people with superstitions and prejudices, who blind the visions of the seeing ones, and who preach subservience to material things. Then Pilate, ruler of Jerusalem, gave orders to lay hands upon the preacher Issa, and to deliver him to the judges, without, however, arousing the displeasure of the people. But Issa taught, do not seek straight paths in darkness possessed by fear, but gather force and support each other. He who supports his neighbor strengthens himself. I tried to revive the laws of Moses in the hearts of people, and I say unto you that you do not understand their true meaning, because they do not teach revenge, but forgiveness. But the meaning of these laws is distorted. Then the ruler sent to Issa his disguised servants, that they should watch his actions and report to him about his words to the people. Thou just man, said the disguised servant of the ruler of Jerusalem, approaching Issa, teach us, should we fulfill the will of Caesar, or await the approaching deliverance? But Issa, recognizing the disguised servant, said, I did not foretell unto you that you would be delivered from Caesar, but I said that the soul which was immersed in sin would be delivered from sin. At that time an old woman approached the crowd, but was pushed back. Then Issa said, Reverence woman, mother of the universe. In her lies the truth of creation. She is the foundation of all that is good and beautiful. She is the source of life and death. Upon her depends the existence of man, because she is the sustenance of his labors. She gives birth to you in travail. She watches over your growth. Bless her, honor her, defend her. Love your wives and honor them, because tomorrow they shall be mothers and later progenitors of a whole race. Their love ennobles man, soothes the embittered heart, and tames the beast. Wife and mother, they are the adornments of the universe. As light itself divides itself from darkness, so does woman possess the gift to divide in man the good intents from the thought of evil. Your best thoughts must belong to woman. Gather from them your moral strength, which you must possess to sustain your near ones. Do not humiliate her, for therein you will humiliate yourselves. And all which you will do to mother, to wife, to widow, or to another woman in sorrow, that you shall also do for the spirit. So taught Issa. But the ruler Pilate ordered one of his servants to make accusations against him. Said Issa, not far hence is a time when the people will become purified and united into one family. And then turning to the ruler, he said, Why demean thy dignity, and teach thy subordinates to live in deceit, when even without this thou couldst also have had the means of accusing an innocent one? So from another version of the legend, Roerich quotes fragments of thought and evidence of the miraculous. Near Lhasa was a temple of teaching with a wealth of manuscripts Jesus was to acquaint himself with. Mengste, a great sage of all the East, was in his temple. Finally, Jesus reached the mountain pass in the chief city of Ladakh, Leh, and was joyously accepted by the monks and the people of the lower class. And Jesus taught in the monasteries and in the bazaars wherever the simple people gathered, therefore he taught. Not far from this place lived a woman whose son died, and she brought him to Jesus, and in the presence of the multitude Jesus laid hand on the child, and the child rose healed. And many brought their children, and Jesus laid his hands upon them, healing them. Among the Ladakhis, Jesus passed many days teaching them, and they loved him, and when the time of his departure came, they sorrowed as children. And so I have for you guys, too, the full PDF here for those that want to delve deeper into this. Interesting, most definitely, interesting teachings. And, this was an article somebody wrote on why women must be viewed as sacred. And this is part of the great issue that we have with, fundamentalist modern Christianity. Very clear that it's completely patriarchal and out of balance. When you look at Gnostic Christianity and you look at Sophianism, which Sophia, is the mother creative goddess, basically, the divine feminine. You could view it as, it is the Shekinah. Also, for those of you that are familiar with the Kabbalah and Kabbalistic thinking, we could easily equate this to Shakti in Shiva and Shakti. again, this all goes together when we start looking at it from an esoteric point of view. And it becomes very, very apparent that fundamentalist thinking is something so different and so foreign to perhaps the original intention and what the original teachings as well. But as we know, there are dark forces that are here on this planet consistently trying to keep us divided. So when these ascended beings, these beings of amazing heart and mind and soul, come to us to give us these beautiful teachings and to show us how to get back on the path, it's later twisted in such a way that it creates division and divisiveness. And that's exactly what has happened here in this situation. There are those that believe that Babaji, who is viewed as an immortal, who is thought to have lived and still might be living at Mount Kailash, which is the abode of Shiva on earth. And Babaji is thought also to be an incarnation of Shiva. And it is thought by some that he was the main teacher of Christ in this life, in that life. And so, according to legends, Babaji is still with us and will stay with us, as long, at least until the end of this age, which could be upon us now, as we have been talking about, and helping to lead us out of this dark Kali Yuga and back into a golden age. When you read the Bhagavad Gita and you read of Krishna giving Arjuna a lesson, and the Bhagavad Gita is basically given overlooking what tomorrow is going to be a huge battle scene in which the main character Arjuna is going to have to fight relatives. And Krishna gives his discourse and into the nature of beings and man and the universe as well. And in it, he lets it be known that he is an incarnation of Vishnu, which is the preserving force in the universe. So he is the preserver. Brahma is the creator, and Shiva is the destroyer of illusion in Hinduism. And it is the destroyer of the illusion, of the things that need to be let go of, and that is Shiva's purpose. And so Babaji is thought to be an incarnation of Shiva. So it's all pretty interesting, but Krishna says, as Vishnu, in every age when there's darkness, when the world is without a light and a guiding force, and man's ways are just getting wicked and worse, he basically takes an avatar and he comes back. And so when we look at the incarnations, Rama was his 8th and Krishna is his 9th incarnation. And some believe that he is due to come back yet again. Perhaps it might even be here now. And that's going to be the Kalki avatar, which interestingly enough is viewed as a rider on a white horse, which comes to Revelation, which is very, very interesting. So perhaps all this is really tied together. So I look forward to your comments as always. I hope we can always have open minds. And I know that those of you who are watching on this channel, and there's another link I'll give you here, more on the lost years of Jesus. I know you guys are open-minded. And again, a full cup has no room for anything new in it. So as always, my friends, thank you for your support. Thank you for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi as well. And as always, my friends, God bless. Namaste.